Commit slander.
Okay.
I'll take that off the thing. But it's recording, so let's try on. Right, I'll intro quickly. Welcome to a special Legacy Nation Retreat podcast. I'm here with
Lewis,
Joe,
Krabby,
Miles.
and we've just done a day and a half at the Sportland HQ working on the three methods in the Clarity system. So coach development, personal development, and some business stuff. And it's been a pretty cool couple of days, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
hell yeah.
And so part of it is, we just jumped on here for a chat. We just did business, didn't we? So I'm going to throw this question out there because everyone has their own sort of side hustle. Terrible term. It's a job if you're going to do it. So what are the couple of things that you've really been picking up on, and also horror stories? I think story time is in order.
You look like you're going to say something. I saw that chest expand.
Yeah.
Can't be out seeing as your sound, so
Repeat the question.
Horror stories of business development.
Spending 500 quid to get someone to go away.
Yeah.
Tell us who,
I was
John.
going to say, we're not name dropping, are we?
No. So you were hustled so hard, you ended up just paying 500 quid to leave.
Yeah. So I applied for interest in something. This is probably about 4 years ago, and then that person basically phoned me up out of the blue, put me through a high pressure sales call. Made me feel like shit, asked me a bunch of questions, tore me down, made me that big, and then obviously sold me a solution. And I'd been put onto it through a couple of friends who'd done that course and had success with it. So I essentially trusted them more than the person who was selling to me. So I paid this £500 deposit, and which was obviously sweet. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I was talking to another friend of mine, close friend of mine, and he was like, "You're an idiot." And I was like, "I know," and deep down I knew that I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And so I ended up cancelling it, so I didn't have to pay this guy any more money. And he kept my deposit, and I basically call that dickhead tax.
Yes.
So I paid that guy to no longer. Obviously, he tried to pitch me like the next thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, thank you." and then that was that. But it was definitely an important lesson in the the sharks within the industry and the endless business coaches who tell you that you're gonna improve your coaching service and help loads of people, but it's none of that. It's all about how they can make as much money as possible and train other people to make as much money as possible and actually not do the job of coaching.
Yeah. And that's the biggest problem that coaches fall into that trap of, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the biggest wives' tales of the S&C industry is that you can't make any money. So these guys just come in and they're like, "Give me all your money, and then you can make loads of money." The biggest promise is gold, isn't it?
And if you don't make money, it's never their fault.
It's never their fault. Zero accountability.
Yeah.
So why do you think guys, honestly, and this is something we talk about, can't make money off athletes? Why do you think S&C coaches say there's no money in athletes?
Probably because they aren't necessarily good at communicating with people in the first place, and also maybe not good at fulfilling the needs of those athletes.
Yeah.
So a lot of coaches seeing things from a sets and reps perspective, or a very rigid view of training, whereas obviously athletes probably see things as more a storytelling type vibe.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably more that than anything else.
Yeah.
And also most coaches probably don't appreciate how big the market actually is.
Yeah, it's fucking huge.
Yeah, because if you actually expand the term athletes to everyone who plays recreational sport, then actually the line between athletes and general pop becomes really blurred, because the number of guys who played like recreational five-a-side or
Yeah.
football at the weekends,
Yeah.
like all of a sudden, or skiing, tennis, whatever it is,
Yeah.
suddenly there's a lot of people who are doing stupid bodybuilding programs,
Yeah.
right? Or Les Mills or fuck knows what,
Yeah.
who should be training like athletes.
100%.
I think there's a massive skewed perception of that, thinking that athletes like know just as much as the coaches themselves, just because of where they are.
Yeah.
Or if they're good at the sport, it must mean that they're good in the gym as well. When in essence, loads of these athletes, that maybe they are good on the field or good at their game, they don't know shit about shit when it comes to actual application and concepts of S&C. I think that holds
The bigger picture, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But I think that comes from us as most S&C coaches are, I don't want to use the word failed, like athletes.
Oh,
or
failed
professionals,
athletes,
yeah. We've all had our
I don't know about that. I think I failed pretty hard.
we've all had our dream of playing whatever sport we kind of
Yeah.
first did, and I think in our heads we think because we went down the route of being an athlete first that we kind of expect everyone to either follow suit or to know as much as we knew, and it just happens to be that we took an interest in doing that kind of side thing. So
I think the other thing I'd just tack onto that is that we probably take a lot of things for granted in terms of like what we think of as training common sense, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that either we've just got a knack for picking up quickly,
Yeah.
or we just assume it's common knowledge,
Yeah.
and in reality it's nowhere near.
And that's a cultural bias is for information consumption, isn't it? So it's like what we don't appreciate being really, really important, or we devalue it in because we're trying to think of the next thing that's exciting or attractive that soothes our ego as coaches. Like, oh, we're gonna throw him off a 10-story building to give him eccentric rate of force development, as opposed to
Sounds like a good plan.
yeah, as opposed to Rebel Wilson. Right, you can then see how you fall into that trap where it becomes, well, who am I coaching for? Am I coaching the people in front of me, or am I coaching my way up progression? Big difference. Big difference. We in Legacy, when Joseph Johnson was on, go buy books off of Ultimate Athletic Concepts, by the way. Knows Yesis, knows Bondarchuk, knows Val Nedskin, Isserin, knows all these people. It's like nothing's changed in the last 30 years. And if we're like, level maybe 3rd generation, 4th generation rough coaches, learning people off that have learned off people that have tried to make sense off of things, our job is to purely deliver.
Make things simpler.
Yes, absolutely. So then it ties into the whole, like, let's just address these fucking basic narratives. No money, no job satisfaction, not important, no one listens to me at my job. But I work for £15,000 to wear a nice tracksuit.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, you can see how those two are starting to piece together. What about the next one? Like, no one values me at my job. No one values what I do. What's that about?
That's about people not valuing themselves.
Yeah.
It all starts with you.
Yeah.
and like the tweet I put last week, it's like if you haven't got that kind of, if you're not big enough to kind of recognise your own self-belief systems, like you can't make any change. You gotta understand that everything's in the belief systems.
Yeah. And so what's the point in fighting for the probably less than maybe 200 jobs in the country in professional sport? Maybe? In club sport?
There's no point.
And in reality, when you look at the hours worked
Yeah.
versus salary,
Yeah.
you're probably looking at something that's probably closer to like minimum wage.
Yeah.
I think going back to what I was saying about earlier is if you take all the general pop who are involved in something athletic and then also just like remove the age frame from that, because a lot of the time we think like 20s to early 30s, well, sorry, but I want to be fucking savage when I'm 50. Like, I want to be able to sprint, I want to be able to jump, I want to be able to lift weights.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Do you have a program for that, sir?
I fucking
Plug, plug, plug.
damage control, mate.
Quick plug it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's
Yeah,
so
it's
true.
like we're all competitive.
Yeah.
That's never going to stop. You're never going to wake up and be like, oh, well, my athletic career is over.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm stronger at 32 than I was at 22.
Yeah.
And I want to be stronger at 42 than I am now.
Yeah, 100%. And that it's like that correlation where it's like you've got the young kid, like Wayne Rooney played in the Premier League at 16, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, we know how all that ended.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there was just because he was good enough doesn't mean he should have been there the whole time.
Yeah.
We probably lost one of the world's greatest strikers early.
There's so many people in all aspects of life checking out early.
Yeah.
With that age, it's incredible. I talked about my story of the day.
Yeah.
Like this association with 30, it's like everyone thinks it's downhill from there.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Here's the thing, right?
30.
You'll talk to guys in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, and they'll be like, oh, everything changes when you get older. It's like, no, you're in shit nick when you're 20, and you're in
Yeah.
shit nick now.
Yeah.
Amen. Like I'm turning 29 in a couple of weeks, and I'm way more athletic, way stronger, way faster, way more powerful. My movement is so much more competent than when I was 18, 20, 21. It's just gotten better.
Mm.
And it will be like that until I'm way over 35, 100%. I'm not going to let that, the glass ceiling that people put over their head fucking. It's sad that people say it. I get really annoyed as well when people say it. I'm like, hang about, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
You never find out really. Most people, some people never find out who they are until they're 25. And then you're saying that 30 is the cut-off point. So you've got a 5-hour window in your 80-year life or over that is the anabolic window of living life. It's like, get the fuck out.
And it takes you 3 years of pressing the fuck it button in Bali to find it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so you have to think about that, right? So what about, think about what about the career as an S&C coach? Like, what does that even look like? Uni, internship. You're thinking about going into 30 with, the athletic evolution as well. Jimmy Gopperth in the Premiership, 37 years old, still playing Premiership rugby. Like, that shouldn't be an outlier.
No.
It just shouldn't. And then you line that with an S&C coach's career. If someone is like 37 and still redlining it how people do, then what have they lost along the way?
Their youth,
Yeah.
youthful exuberance,
Mm.
And the thing is, it's like, you're obviously not going to get that time back, but
Yeah.
it's that thing of like, you've essentially traded in, well, you've done what most people do, which is traded in your autonomy for a paycheck and security, but the reality is you're not actually secure because you can be got rid of at any time, and that's reflected by your pay.
Yeah.
Like if they valued you more,
Yeah.
or if the market valued you more, however you want to look at it, then you'd be paid like it.
Yeah. So would you say it's a self-esteem issue why people go in to pursue professional sport coaching?
I think people try and fill voids in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's always like filling that existential void of like, am I enough? And like, some people are going to do that through training, and other people are going to do that through careers.
Yeah.
And we will probably do that to an extent, trying to find meaning.
Yeah. You do. I was so grateful when I got to work for Wasps because it's the team I wanted to play for. Fucking resigned.
It was
So bad.
when I worked for Chelsea for 4 years, team I've supported my whole life.
Yeah.
Fucking worst people to work for.
Yeah.
Worst people. But I stuck at it, and it was a life lesson. I look back and like, it's now why I work for myself and teach you lessons, as we were talking to earlier. All the things that you do that you could say, obviously you could regret, but also it's a life lesson.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to let go when it's something that you've emotionally attached yourself to for so long. And then to let go of it's really hard, but once you do, and then you break through it, you look back and go, best decision ever.
Yeah, because you think our industry is, I think nothing's changed in sports science in 30 years. Professional, we had Craig White on, who was the first professional S&C coach in rugby in the early 1990s, and the game went professional. It's only 2022, so that's 30 years. And we've not had like strength and conditioning degrees in education for 10 years, something like that. So you think, what are we producing? And what are we actually producing for our field? And then that's where that disparity comes into play, I believe, because it's, you know, such a novice, so young, and it's such a bitter pill to swallow, is that, you know, what we do is not as important as what we think we do, because when we have over-reliance on that, we attach our self-esteem to that, and then we actually lose all the things where esteem is created from.
Yeah. I think what's interesting for me is I've never been conventionally employed.
Yeah.
I've always been self-employed, and I think part of the reason for that is I'm just very independent. So I was just essentially never going to work for anyone else in that sense. And what was interesting is, like, I remember when I started doing personal training, I looked at jobs in essentially like strength and conditioning fields, and even at like 23, I was looking at the salary and then, you know, essentially like the expectations of the role. And as a 23-year-old, I'm like, why the fuck would anyone do that? I looked at a role at a school, nearly said the name, right? Schmollage. And it was the pay was like something like 17 grand a year for like an assistant job, and I know for a fact that the fees at that school were like 35,000.
Yeah.
So that tells you everything you need to know about how that thing is valued.
Yeah.
So it's like you can make that money off a few hours a week of personal training and then just self-develop. And then when I actually came, and the thing for me was I always felt like maybe I'm like really missing out on something in terms of development because I'm not getting the quote-unquote continuous professional development.
Yeah.
But then you go and meet people who go and work in like these really prestigious clubs and still work in these prestigious clubs, and they just say it's a fucking nightmare. And they're not listened to.
Yeah.
So, you know, we both know someone who works at a Premiership team in an assistant role who doesn't, you know, get, you know, whatever, and you're dealing with like stupid hamstring injuries that shouldn't be an issue, but what's happening is like the guys who are in charge don't really understand what S&C is actually about.
Yeah. It's a beast.
It's a great industry.
Beast. It's a beast. And then that, you know, like why, so then what stops people making the jump? Well, like, you know, from actually just going, do you know what, from the outset, I look at it from my point of view, when I first started in the professional, in team sports and stuff like that, and came onto that scene, you'd be viewed as sellout if you self-promoted, if you talked about yourself as, you know, and yeah, I walked into a physio room once, and he's like, here he is, Mr. Self-Promoter. My response was like, well, someone's got to tell me I'm good at my job.
Fucking hell.
And literally, like that same person, I was fortunate to do a consult with a coach. I was doing rehab at the time, consulted with a coach in America, big ACL person. He gave me his flowchart for his ACL. And I was like, this is amazing, like what an open mind, sharing resources, all this sort of stuff. So I printed it off and I gave it to the physio. I was like, I've just done this call with this person, ACL, we had a couple of ACLs at the time. You know, I thought you might be interested in you to look at it. And he took it off my hand and he threw it in the bin. I actually took it out of my hand and threw it. And I was like, that is just unreal. I was taken aback by it. And it's like that mindset, it almost in some way like traps people in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's ego and also just fear.
Yeah.
I think
It
the
sounds-
driver of it really.
Yeah.
It sounds like, obviously, I've never been in that environment, but there's no gelling between the different professions. There's always a feel of threatening if someone... I think that the stepping out of one's lane is warranted, depending on how far you go. But at the end of the day, we all gel into each other. So physiotherapy, like we shouldn't really probably diagnose whatever. We can prescribe, off of what we're given. But I think there's just like an element of like if someone goes to the other profession and goes, oh yeah, I think this, they just suddenly feel threatened, and it's like, what the fuck? Like we're meant to be in this together. Like this isn't about us, it's about the athlete. Like what the fuck?
Well, yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head. Like we don't have a job without the players.
Yeah.
Or without the people.
You got to do what's right for the athlete, not what's best for your own reputation.
Yeah. You think how important that is in golf?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things I find really interesting is like employed S&C coaches will label self-employed coaches or self-employed personal trainers as babysitters.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like such an interesting knock.
Yeah.
Because like one, obviously they're meaning it in like, you know, in a pejorative way. But actually if you think about the qualities that you would want in a babysitter,
Yeah.
like you get someone who is gonna look after your kids.
Yeah.
Like kind, responsible, honest, you know, hardworking, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a really interesting.
Ability to load manage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a good one.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true. And so, kind of like switching gears in, because we could do this all day. We've got a barbecue to eat. So when you're like, let's think about like applied S&C. Like, what's the difference? What are you finding that's making like the huge unlocking things in the performance with the athletes and clients and people that you're working with?
Doing less.
Doing less.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah.
Big one.
Yeah.
Saying less a lot of the time.
Saying
in regards to coaching,
Yeah.
that saying less. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Encouraging, like, when it comes back to the doing less thing, but consistency. So in the form of that, giving that person autonomy to reduce a program to its simplest form, so that they can do something.
Yeah.
So with a lot of my programs, you know, the sessions could be anything from like 45 to 75 minutes or whatever it is. It's like if that person only has 20 minutes, then I want them just to literally go in, do the big rocks, leave, and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Educating the athletes about what they should be fit, what they need to do, what this is developing.
Yeah.
You don't have access to this, do this instead.
Yeah.
You've got these options.
Talk about minimum, right? I was talking to Emma the other day about one of her yoga classes, and some woman turned up. She was covering of the road. Turned up in her jeans. It was after work. Came straight from work in her jeans. She had booked her yoga, and the savasana was a long savasana at the end because it was a wind down after work, and they had a blanket and an eye mask. She fell asleep half an hour. So I had to wake her up to get her out, like to literally snoring at the end of the class, and because you know it's brilliant because that's exactly what she needed.
Money well spent, right?
Yeah, and so she went to the place that allowed her to have it. When how many times, like you said, you've got 20 minutes, I need you to tick these boxes, but how many times is it the other way? Why do you only have 20 minutes?
And that's why I said, like, people miss sessions. Don't go back.
Yeah.
Like, today's, tomorrow's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, just move on.
Yeah.
And then if you can look at the reasons why you missed something or why, you know, you weren't able to complete, then cool. And then let's say you get to the end of a program and you've completed 30% of that program.
Yeah.
Then the next program is only 30%.
Yeah.
You just reduce it so that then that person's just doing what they can do. And then their compliance is 100%.
Yeah.
And then how do they feel? Fucking great.
Positive feedback loops.
Yeah. And so like it's something we spoke about earlier. It's kind of that discussion about whether a coach is a consultant or a dictator, and I've started thinking about it now as just consultancy, because I'm bringing my expertise to the table to let them have some kind of ownership over their own training, because I don't own their training. Their training, their ability to perform is theirs, and like if I can provide my advice or opinion on what they're doing, that is what's going to help them, you know, provide that autonomy.
Yeah. Well, and you dovetail in between like inside the professional game and in the external game, and the only thing that really differs between the two is in the external game they pay you, internal game club pays you, so you completely lose your value, and your perceived value of yourself is dictated by your contract inside, versus outside is dictated by what that person who needs that help to move that needle for them is paying you. And I was fortunate. Well, I worked for myself before I even got there, and the whole time I'd walk in and I'd be like this in my mind. You just carry yourself as this person's paying my wage. the person that I'm working with is paying my wage.
Because then you've got to really show up, right?
Yeah, 100% every time, and it was the players that when I resigned from Wasps that I missed, and it's the players that you miss all the time. Like I don't miss any of the other bullshit.
And they're the ones who still pay you now.
Exactly, and it's that fostering that relationship, and when you're in that applied modality. I remember having conversations when I wasn't programming, like get rid of that, like literally, like how you feeling, mate? Yeah, fuck that off, because at the end you need to have empathy to be a good coach. You need high levels of emotional intelligence, don't you?
Yeah.
That's why I never stopped playing. That's why it goes back, but always going to be athletic. Never stopped playing. I was playing National 3 when I was working at Wasp, but I had a game on a Saturday and so did they. And that's all that mattered, because I knew what it felt like on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my biggest gripes is you can't squat heavy 2 days after a game. But you see it rife across the industry. Because it's Monday. You know?
Amen.
So what about stress management for golf, right? You walk for 3 days,
Yeah, a bit more than that. Sometimes.
chasing a fucking little white thing around the fairway.
Yeah, sometimes you walk further than that.
But what's the stress management indicators? Because it's so novel to me. So I like having these conversations.
Oh, well, it's everything depending on what level you're at. So all the booking side of things, playing practice rounds, a tournament week. So even on the lower levels, there's probably about 4 or 5 rounds.
Because when you said that to me on the podcast, go listen. How many rounds of golf do you play before you play the round that matters?
Well, mini tour stuff is 1, but if you're at the higher levels, you're probably playing 2. Some people, will play practice round, pro-am, and then if you're on the mini tour stuff, it'll be 3-day events, so then that makes 5 if you're doing it that way. People manage it, so people will play doing the pro-am, they'll just practice, walk the course, play pro-am. If you're on the main tour, then you're probably playing 9 holes one day, 9 holes another, pro-am, 4 days tournament.
Imagine playing 2 games of football before you play the game that matters.
Is that what that is like?
Pretty much. It's amazing actually the general conditioning from actually walking around a golf course.
It's a shitload of steps. It's probably like 50,000 steps.
Essentially, if you think about it, if
it's got to be.
you're pretty much working about 80%. If you're hitting sort of a full shot, it's about say 80% effort.
Mm-hmm.
So if you use like percentages, for instance,
Yeah.
if you 1RM, essentially you're probably doing what? So I think 20 to 30, 80% reps per round of golf, plus your warm-ups. So if you're hitting shots on the range, you're probably going to hit about, if you've got pitching and stuff at full shots, people probably hit 40 full shots, but like after they've done their pitching and stuff, so that's like another load of bounce at 80%. If you're 1RM.
So golf's not that easy then. Really.
It's one of those. You get conditioned to it over time. But, and especially now with the trend of hitting it, working on swing speed, it's very much okay. Well, you're going to chuck some speed work into that, and whack some 100% work into it. Yeah, have fun. Oh, your back's sore. I wonder why.
Yeah. And that obviously big proponent of strength work for golfers.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. That obviously we know, but as coaches, but actually understanding, it's like you need that just pure capacity to tolerate 4 days of.
There's a reason why people who don't play golf very often, like general golfers, they will feel, or they'll be aching the next day after, or a day or two after.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do you expect?
We might have already covered this. I might have asked this. I might have heard, but do you work off percentages like in terms of efforts when you swing? So like, or is it all like 100%? Or it depends how far you want to hit in that.
Varies on the player.
Yeah,
but generally speaking, you'll have something that you have like a full shot or something that's consistent.
Yeah.
That would normally be in around the 80-90% mark. Yeah. Then a bit higher, you want to step on one, so that pushes up close to probably 95%, give or take.
Yeah.
But then obviously you then have ones where you're hitting softer shots.
Yeah.
That's when the percentage work comes in. Not necessarily people think about a percentage, they use like positions of a clock, for instance, but it's the same deal.
Got ya. Yeah, nice.
Well, that's cool. So like, if you're round, you'd be like 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, so basically it would be backswing. So the
Yeah.
length of the backswing obviously dictates a bit of how much speed you generate. So then it'd be like, for instance, one that I used was my lead arm position. So it'd be like, right, okay, because I can control this quite easily. It'd be like, right, okay, so this shot is 9 o'clock, or parallel to the floor, and then it'd be like 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
11 o'clock, or even shorter ones. And then you might have it on the way through. So you have like, for one club, you'll have a bunch of different yards. You just go, right, okay, so I go 9 o'clock through to, say, 3 o'clock. That's like a half shot. That goes this far. 10 o'clock to there goes this far. So you look at a player's yardage book, if they've got written down a card, they'll literally have all their different yardages. A lot of people will.
Really?
Some people have them stamped on their golf clubs.
Really? That's class.
Yeah, that's super Norse. It's good though. It's data, isn't it? It
Yeah,
loves
it's a lot of data, yeah, like launch monitors and everything.
Have you ever hit a hole in one?
No, never.
Fuck.
I've hold a few shots from like fairway stuff, but never like
Yeah, come on. What's the best shot? Picture it. What was the scenario?
What, one that I actually hold out?
What was like the banger that you were like, this one's gonna get me laid?
I don't know. One sticks out in particular, but that was more of a turning point to then what went on for a couple of weeks afterwards.
Okay. Yeah.
So one like I wasn't doing that well in the first sort of 8 holes of the tournament. I then tough flag, hit the shot, looked like it was going to be close, walk up there, got in. I was like, fucking great. Carried on, finished the rest around. I hadn't made a cut in a while. I then made the cut in that tournament, and then the week later I finished second. And it's just like, that was sort of the catalyst of like, oh sweet, you get going. It's like, that probably has the biggest,
The momentum.
yeah, one that I actually hold out that's actually had proper momentum moving forward.
So that shot, you said it was a tough flag, right?
Yeah, like I can see it clearly now in my head.
Yeah. So paint that picture. I can.
Yeah.
Paint that picture. Like how far, how.
I think it was, what was it? It was between 158 and 162, 8 iron, over water, over a bunker to a raised green, with not much green to work with.
Straight in.
So,
Sounds like a sniper.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
yeah, so,
Marks and shit scored
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I could see it.
So over water, over sand, up a hill.
Yeah.
Make it sound as epic as you can. Right?
Yeah.
I'm giving him the opportunity.
Well, you know me,
Plays it down. But that's got to be pretty cool because that's the. I mean, if you think about it like that, I believe that's nuts. Like play three rounds before you even play the one that matters. It's like Tin Hat Thursday in sport, like in rugby. You'd go bone on bone on a Thursday before the game. It's like just to prove that you can do it. It's like, well, we're on the field and you're a technical coach. You might as well just coach me if I can't, rather than putting me in the firing lane. But then you're there, like playing that shot that then sets up you moving into the tournament. And we all play field sports, so don't really know much about that patient torture of like, it's like playing a 5-day test match, isn't it? So we're, I guess, very type A, smash, but you can't have that in golf, can you?
No, it's not fast paced by any means.
It's a civilised game.
Yeah.
Well, like round some of the mini tours are ridiculous. They'll take 5.5 hours.
Yeah, so you can't be up there. Can
No,
you?
because most people they take it seriously, but they'll go to the nth degree and literally just do everything and just like, fucking get a move on. I want to get back and have some food and go to sleep. Thank you very much. Well, I guess sort of that type of thing. Like for it's like in it. There's always like turning points, like even in field sport in regards to like there's something that sort of clicks and then moves forward, but it's far more reactive.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, with golf, it's just very mental, and I find it probably lasts for longer.
Yeah.
And then because you've got so much time to think in between shots, it's just a fucking pain in the ass.
How are you finding doing more coaching and playing at the same time?
Well, I'm not really playing at the minute, so hence
Working on that.
yeah, he's trying to get me out there a bit more. Obviously, I'm going to try and get out there and play a bit more. But I find for me the enjoyment comes back into it. Like I'm feeling now, like took a step back because I wasn't enjoying it, wasn't making any money. So it's like, well, why am I doing this if it's costing me 15, 20 grand a year to play? I'm not making hardly any of that money back. And it's like, well, but how do I be involved in the sport and then work into it? So that's why I made the transition. But now, like, I'll be going to events, and I like the fact that I can go to an event and I can talk to my clients and help them out on the road. And that provides a different satisfaction for me. Like going to places, like unfortunately with the tyre situation the other day, I was meant to be going to an event to go and see some of my guys, but I get far more enjoyment, and I would now want to go and play the game more. Now I'm coaching it.
And you could like be in the hole with them on those practice rounds on the days before.
I mean, like obviously, like I'm not working on as their sort of technical coach. But it's very much okay. Well, like you've been doing this for however long. How do you feel throughout the week? Like, do you feel like ask them at the tournament as they're feeling it? Like, well, how do you feel after doing that?
So how far does technique play? Open to everyone. How far in something like this? When you think about this, how far will technique get you?
I think it's just lower cost, isn't it? You're doing everything more efficiently.
So once you've attained a certain level, what's next?
Just put a bunch of fucking juice on it.
But you know what I mean? Like in terms of, you know, he made the point, I'm not their technical coach. But you can go around through experience. And then what does it become? It's here. And the feel good.
I find being in the sport, like I can ask them what they're working on their game. I understand it, and I can go, right, okay, well, I know where they're coming from. It's like, well, we can work on these things, which are gonna they're not gonna directly impact that, but they're gonna move you in that direction, and provide some reassurance. Oh, you're struggling with this. You're feeling this. Well, okay, well, we're gonna work on these things and push you forward, and work on the qualities that sort of are gonna help with that down the line.
Because 9 times out of 10, the solution that's there is not gained by doing that; it's gained by doing that, and chipping away at all those other bits and pieces. So, ready for a barbecue?
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Say goodbye then. Bye.
Damage control.
Adapt and develop.
Follow all these guys. Unfollow me. See you soon.
We're the bollocks here.